That was October 5th?
I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Romulus Board of Education scheduled for Monday, October 22nd, 2007 to order. Could I have roll call, please?
Ms. Kraut.
Here?
Ms. Roscoe.
Here.
Ms. Frere.
Present.
Ms. Buckley.
Here.
Ms. Lanasi.
Present.
Mr. McKevich.
Here.
Mr. Kudick present.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda would be the approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
Mr. President, I make a motion that you wanted two motions, right?
No,
No, not on
just
the
on
agenda.
approval of the
On the
agenda.
For the
Okay.
agenda.
My bad. That we approve our agenda.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Buckley, support by Mrs. Frere. Any board members with any questions or concerns concerning the agenda? Seeing none, we will take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now we need to go to the approval of minutes of the previous meeting. And that one, we were talking about two motions.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the study session of, what was it?
October 8th.
October 8th.
Okay, October 8th, thank you.
Support.
Who supported?
Me.
Ms. Cheryl.
Buckley? We have a motion by Mrs. Lanasi, supported by Mrs. Buckley, to approve the minutes from the study session of October 8th, 2007. Any board members with questions, concerns on those minutes? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now we have for the regular meeting.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion. We approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 8th, 2007.
Support.
Mr. Kraut, okay.
Kraut.
We have a motion by Mr. Kudick, support by Mrs. Kraut, to approve the regular meeting minutes of the October 8th, 2007 meeting. Any board members with questions or concerns on those minutes? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to begin tonight with our audit report. We have Mr. Ron Traskos here from Post-Smythe, Lutz and Zeal to give us a recap of our 2006-2007 audit. I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Traskos. Welcome, Ron.
Oh, could we have a little light here? Just one.
I think,
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
okay. That's good. Yeah.
and is this on? Is this on?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, I think just a double click will get us to the, there we go. Okay, we'll make this, try to make this very concise tonight and get right to the point. Go ahead and click. We gave you a manual printout because these slides get to be a little foggy at this distance, but I believe I can point to the key numbers. What I'd like to do is really cut right to the chase and give you a feel for the significant financial results that of the 2006-2007 year, and that would be if I come up in here. Let me come a little chain. There's an actual column, and you can see right towards the bottom of the actual column, you can see the net change in fund balance, and that's a positive number of $3,550,000. And you can see in the actual column for June 30, 06, there was an actual loss of $704,000 for that year. You started off with 754. There was a loss of 704, and your fund balance was a meager 53,000 at the beginning of the operating year. And you all know the hard decisions that had to be made to rectify that situation. And in doing so, the rebound was as good as you could hope for, really. And we believe has put the district on firm financial footing with this turnaround. So hit number 2, Sherry. The components of that turnaround, basically I'd like to go to actual this year and then actual prior year. And you can see that revenues increased, my memory serves me right, that's about $1.5 million. State sources and federal sources didn't do much for you. It was really in the local sources that rebounded from 15.3 million to 17.3. I think that's a 3, yes. And that's really a result of the prior year that the taxing authorities, there were some significant adjustments in the tax rolls, the largest one being a large hotel over on the airport. So in June of '06, the tax revenues took some significant adjustments, and then those rebounded this year. So when you add it all up, there's about $1.5 million more revenue to work with. So that was a very positive swing. And then on the expenditure side, we hit number 3. You can see that the hard decisions that the board and the administration made reduced your operating expenditures from just a little over 43 million down to 40,380,000. And so if you take that reduction in expenditures, I think it's around 2.6 million. If you add those to the increased revenues, you can see the rebound of 4.3 million at this level. And then if you go to the full, if you went back to page 1, community services and athletics cost around 600,000, and then that comes off of that number. And those were pretty constant from the prior year to the current year. So in a nutshell, it was better than anticipated revenues, and mainly in the tax area, and then the significant operating cuts that the administration and board stepped up to. We just wanted to take the massive numbers for you and try to allow you to visualize them. And from as far as a source of revenue for '06, '07, you can see that your local, basically your tax base, provides 39%. Your student headcount based on the dollars that come in from the state are 52% of your revenue source. The federal grants, federal area is about 3.5 million, relatively flat this last year, and then there's all the other little miscellaneous activities for 1%. So the state is really more than 52. The local participation is 39, and that's the heart of your revenue source. The expenditures by function, if you crunch them all down, instruction, of course, is 52%. Then the support services is 46, and then all other is 706. And these percentages have stayed relatively constant. If you then take the expenditures and break them down further, you get into what do we spend our dollars on within those categories. And you can see that salaries are 60%, 24 million, almost 24.5 million were 60% of the total expenditures. Benefits were another 26%, 10,000,007. So in a school district, that's really the heart of the budget. It's really staffing that really controls the majority of the budget. And then your purchase services are about 5%, supplies are 8%, and then capital outlay, you can see it actually equated to 0%. It was 64,000, and we'll talk about that later. Capital outlay was virtually nil, and but you can see the tail that wags the dog are salaries and the related benefits. Now, this is another cut on your expenditures, and this is calculated on the state's method that says, what do you spend per student? This doesn't include athletics, capital outlay, which in your case is very small, and community service. These are just the raw educational expenditures, if you would. And you can see this number right in here, 4,300, 4,305, 4,315. That's your head count based on your count days. And you can see in 0506 you had 4,315. You budgeted a decrease to 4,300. You came in at 4,305, a little better than budgeted. Still down 10 students. I understand the head count was very positive this year, so that was good news for the current operating year that you're in. You can see that you budgeted 9,600 per student. You actually spent 9,300, and in comparison, you reduced about $600 per student with all of your cuts, and that $600 per student is the $2.6 million reduction that we saw earlier in overall expenditures.
Just a clarification, underneath the bright green to the left, should that read budgeted for 06, 07 instead of 07, 08? Go down lower.
Oh, you're right.
Okay, I thought so.
Yep. Our first typo. I'm sorry.
I think it's the only one.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully that's the only one. But that's the budget against actual.
Okay.
And versus actual last year. So, okay, this is another visualization and gives you a longer trend, and you can see that for several years the revenue line was below the expenditure line. So, for 04, 05, and 06. That 06 that gap right there represents that 700,000 number that we saw earlier that was negative. So we're chugging along, eating the seed corn, if you will, eating into fund balance. Fund balance got really close. Well, here's the rebound, because expenditures were driven down, revenues came in better than expected, and the district really, for 08, is in a position of putting some programs back and bringing those expenditures per student back up. And then with all the goings on in Lansing, et cetera, and the worry of where revenue may come in, revenue has been brought back down a bit. And that'll remain to be seen where that revenue number comes in, especially with the tax law changes that were passed. But this is a great chart because it shows that for several years the district was operating really out of sorts from an operation, because there's the target right there, especially right now with the restoration of your fund balance. If that fund balance can be nurtured and maintained, then if the district can match revenues and expenditures going forward, you'll be in good shape. This is another visualization. It goes back to the fringe benefit. It's the components of your fringe benefits, really, and you can see that here's that first bottom is the retirement cost, and then there's your FICA matching on salaries for Social Security and Medicare, and then the health. You can see how wide that healthcare line is, and then above that is workman's comp, and with the cutbacks in 06 and 07, you'll see a little layer of, since you're self-insured for MESC. You laid people off, but you still had a cost to cover their unemployment benefits, and then that's tapered off now. And then this is a visualization of that first set of numbers that I showed you on page 1. There was your fund balance at the end of 05. That 700,000 that was lost took it right down to almost nothing, and then it's rebounded to 3.6 million. And however, this number has some what if to it. If you go to the next chart, Sherry, that number really, we talk in terms of undesignated, 1,817,000. There's a layer of that 3,006,000 that we felt was prudent to designate, and there's a designation for 800,000 for roof replacements. You saw how little capital outlay that you spent in repairs and maintenance were down last year. It's very common for school districts, businesses, whoever, when things get tight, the first thing you do is postpone and push out repair and maintenance and critical replacement items. So of that 3,006,000, we felt it was prudent to reserve 800,000 for, especially for roofs. That's a major issue throughout the district now. And then within the union negotiations and contract, there were some postponed pay steps, pay grade, pay steps, I guess is the best reference, that were postponed. Therefore, we felt that there was about 800,000 there that should be recognized because those are going to be paid. It was just, so the 3,006,000 is really 1,000,008, but even 1,000,008 is a very nice number. It's very adequate. At this level, last year the school district had to borrow on tax anticipation notes. I would imagine that this coming year that's probably not necessary, which saves a ton of interest, which feeds the beast again and keeps you that much more healthier. So, and then let's see, revenue and actual. The budget to actual isn't that important because these budget adjustments a lot of times are done at towards the year end, but it shows you the revenues by source, if nothing else. There's that local taxation level, there's the state revenue sharing level, and then it's the other programs up on top. And then budget expenditures. This is another visualization of one of those earlier charts where here's your instruction, which is 52% of your overall expenditures, and then the support services, and then all others, that little line. And if you look at the, we gave the financial results for this year for the Romulus School District an A+. It absolutely could not be better. It was quite a rebound for as thin as that fund balance got. And it's the board's credit and the district's credit because you made the hard decisions, and there again, replacement of programs to the extent that can be, things can get a little more positive now. It's not more bad news for the coming year. That's our opinion. Okay. Any questions at this point? I know the audit report is thick, has a lot of numbers in it. We tried to boil it down to as much as we could.
You did a good job.
Thank you, Mr. Traskis. We appreciate your efforts, and also I have to say that a big part of our success is attributable to the good advice that we've received from our auditors. So.
Well, and on the flip side, the records that we worked with this year were heads and tails better than they have been in the past. And our time on the audit is down at least probably almost 38–40%, which equates to dollars again. So Sherry's been doing a wonderful job on that side.
That's good.
Good to hear. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Had a girl.
We need a motion from the Board of Education to acknowledge the receipt of the 06-07 audit.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Support.
Freer? Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Lanasi, support by Mrs. Freyer, to acknowledge the receipt of the audit. Is there any board members with questions or concerns?
I do. I have one question.
Mr. Roscoe?
President. In regards to the attachment as to the recommendations, things to follow up on, are we in that process?
Yes, we are. We're in communication with the city on on the tax liability issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I just
Ms.
have one
Manassi?
comment that Mr. Kudrick said last week, that it makes you proud to think that we have risen from our disastrous financial setting because of our employees. They have helped our unions, all the unions. Every employee in this district has pitched in, and we're very, very proud of that, because now, we have been able to recall to a lot of people, to some of our unions. So, everybody has taken a part in this, and you all deserve a pat on the back.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, vote is in order. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, next we have Mr. Clark with personnel actions. Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Wise and members of the board. I have several personnel actions this evening. First one, a motion is needed by the board to accept the recall of Ms. Celestica O'Flynn as social worker at Romulus Senior High School as submitted.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we recall Celeste O'Flynn for the social worker at the high school.
Support.
We have a motion by Ms. Frayer, support by Mr. Kudrick, to accept the recall of Mrs. O'Flynn as social worker at the high school. Any comments from board members, questions? Seeing none, we will have a vote. All those in favor of the recall, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Our next item is a for-your information at our October 8, 2007 Board of Education meeting. The board voted to restore one custodial position, restore high school secretarial position, and increase the middle school secretarial position from a half-time to a full-time position. As a result, Ms. Diane Bishop has been reassigned to Secretary 2 at Romulus High School. Ms. Patricia McLaughlin is now being recalled to our custodial aide position at Hale Creek and Romulus Hill. Ms. Tina Stewart has been recalled to the Secretary 2 position at Corey Elementary School, and Ms. Kim Wells is now Ms. Kim Wells. Ms. Kim Webb. Does say
I was going to
Wells.
ask you about that one.
Ms. Kim Webb.
Kim's in the district.
Ms. Kim Webb
Now a
is
secretary.
our Secretary 2 position that has gone from a half-time position at the middle school to a full-time position at Merriman Elementary School. That's a for-your information. Our next item also is a for-your information. It is employment of Ms. Tammy Caverly. Tammy is our new elementary cafeteria server at Merriman Elementary School. Our next item also, for your information, the resignation of Ms. Ura Russell Robinson, a child caregiver at My Friends and Me MSRP program, effective October 29, 2007. Our next item also, for your information, the rationale is that in order to meet the needs of a special education student at the high school, Ms. Susan Thede is being recalled as a special education student aide at Romulus Senior High School. This is going to be effective October 23rd, 2007. And our final personnel action, also for your information, this is this is a resignation of Miss Donna Henney. Mrs. Henney is currently on our layoff list and now has taken another position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Next we have Ms. Papascolo.
Thank you.
Bills for payment.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. I'm recommending the board approve the bills submitted for payment for the period October 11th through October 18th, 2007, in the amount of $504,313.92.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve our bills for payment as submitted.
Support.
Who's that, Sandy?
No. Celeste.
No.
Okay.
We have a motion by Mrs. Buckley, support by Mrs. Roscoe, to approve the bills for payment. Any questions from board members? Seeing none, a vote is in order. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, next, Ms. Papazaglou, again, regarding surplus vehicles.
We'd like the board to declare surplus 2 of our Chevrolet vans that we use for special education transportation. The reason for the surplus is that we did indeed purchase 4 new buses to replace these. Out of the 4, 2 will be declared surplus. The other 2 will be kept on the grounds in case of emergency when we have one that needs to be serviced.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion the Board of Education declare the 2 Chevy vans as follows: a 1993 with 175,000 miles on it, and a 1993 with 153,000 miles on it, surplus vehicles.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Kuderick, support by Mrs. Buckley, to declare the 2 vans as listed as surplus. Any questions from the board members? Seeing none, we will vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next item, Mr. President, we have a field trip proposal from Romulus Elementary School. The 2 6th grade teachers would like to take their students for a 3-day trip to the Walled Lake Consolidated Schools Outdoor Education Center. It is an overnight trip and as such requires board approval. I would like to inform the board that both teachers will be attending and staying overnight, and we are in the process, since both teachers are female in this case, we are in the process of identifying male chaperones to attend the trip as well. And we also have assurances from the Walled Lake Community Schools that they have staff members who supervise both daytime and overnight that are both male and female gender. So I want the board to know that we have everything covered there, we hope.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the field trip to Wall Lake Consolidated Schools Outdoor Education Center from April 30th, 08 to May 2nd of 08 for 6th grade students at Romulus Elementary. And no cost to our district. And thank you, Mr. Weiss, because those are some questions I was going to ask.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Buckley, support by Mrs. Lanasi, to approve the outdoor education field trip for Romulus Elementary students. Any board members with questions concerning the field trip?
Mr. President, I got a question.
Kuderick.
Mr. Weiss, is there a way that we can get these students to come in and tell us what they've learned out there? I'd like to, that's one of my key things. I'd like to hear
Yeah.
what they've actually learned, especially when it comes with the outdoors, 'cause there's a
think,
couple of board members up here who might have some questions for him.
I think that's a great idea. I think Mrs. McAnally is in the audience, and I see her nodding her head yes, that would be a possibility. Even though it's toward the end of the school year, I think we can still probably select a few students to come in and give the board an update. I just know from experience, both as a school administrator and as a parent, that these overnight science studies are outstanding. The kids really learn a lot. There's a lot of team building and camaraderie that goes along with it, but it's also, they revolve around, in this case, the 6th grade science standards and benchmarks from the Department of Education, so it's a great hands-on learning experience for the students.
Any other questions or concerns? All right, anyone, I think we should again point out that this field trip is at no cost to the school district. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And let's see, the next item.
Communications.
All right, the next item we have is communications and expressions from the public. We have one request to speak. It's from Ms. Russell Robinson. Would you please come forward, state your name, your address, and, oh, yes, you need the microphone over there. Doesn't sound like it.
Testing.
There you go.
My name is Yura Russell Robinson. I reside at 15,000 Mountain Way, Building 14. That's in Romulus, Michigan, 48174.
Okay.
I wanted to speak on the resignation, the information that you, Mr. Clark had announced, my resignation. I have for you some information regarding that resignation, if I can give that to you.
Mhm.
It's a copy for everyone. The letter states that effective October the 29th, that I was resigning from Romulus Community Schools. I gave the necessary 10 days notice of that resignation on October the 16th, 2007. I received in the mail on this past Friday a letter from Mr. Clark stating that the Board of Education was accepting my resignation at the close of the day on October the 29th. The letter was dated October the 17th, 2007. On October the 19th, which was Friday morning, as I was, the reason why I as a letter of asking that there's a letter there that asks that my resignation be rescinded. There's a letter there that states the reasons why I wanted to rescind that resignation. The sixth item on there describes how I was offered an employment opportunity with another company, and on Friday morning, the company called me and rescinded the job, stating that they have found out that according to their employment policy, 2 people from the same family could not be employed by this company. At that time, I came over here to the board office to speak to Mr. Clark regarding my resignation, and he was not available. I found that he did not work on Friday evenings. At that time, I talked to Robin Omi, his secretary, and I let her know, that I wanted to see about rescinding that resignation. She stated to me that the letter that was dated the 17th was already out in the mail to me, and that the letter, my resignation, would be stated here at the board meeting on today. She suggested I contact Mr. Clark on first thing Monday morning to offer to rescind that resignation. Rather than doing that, I went home and I typed up the letter that you have there, and I presented it back to the board office on Friday, asking that my resignation be rescinded. I contacted Mr. Clark's office on today regarding the letter, and he explained to me that my resignation had already been accepted by the board here, and that there was no way that that resignation can be rescinded. In light of my situation, I am asking at this time that you do accept my rescission of my resignation and not vote to receive my resignation. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. The letter does state there that the reason why I was seeking work, I'm one of the ones who was employed with Romulus Community School Work District as a child care provider for the My Friends and Me program. During this summer, that program was disbanded, and I was laid off. I was receiving unemployment, was recalled to the job on September the 4th, only to find out that we were only to work 2 hours per day in the latchkey program. So rather than working an 8-hour day, I was forced to take the job just working 2 hours a day. About a week after, a little over a week after we started back to work, working just 2 hours a day, I received a call from Robin Frazier informing me that they had added a night after-school program, and that I was assigned to work over at the Wick Elementary School for 2.5 hours a day. So rather than working an 8-hour day now, I was forced to work for 4.5 hours a day just to be able to try to take care of my basic needs, which the job doesn't take care of my basic needs, but nonetheless, it is a job. And that's why I sought employment somewhere else, because of what the hours that I'm working and the pay rate and the amount of time, it was not covering my everyday expenses and my living expenses. And this is my only income, this job. And so that's why I went somewhere else to try to find a job so that I can support myself. And as I said, that job at the last minute was canceled on me.
We're going to have to end your time. I think you've gone past.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question, though.
Me too.
Can I ask a question, Mr. President? It's real quick.
All right, Mrs. Frayer?
I just had a question about, were you asked to work 2 hours in one building and 2 hours in a different building?
Yes,
So
I
you
work
were,
in the morning, I work from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. at Merriman Elementary School. I live just a few blocks down from Merriman Elementary School. Then I go home and I come back in the evening from 3:30 p.m. until 6 p.m. I go to Wick Elementary School, which is more than 5 miles away from my home. So yes, I am working 2 different sites.
thank you.
Mr. President, if I may ask a question, to Mr. Clark, what's our policy regarding issues like this? Since you need to tell me what the policy is and what's what.
As I indicated to Ms. Robinson, that the board policy states that once the resignation is accepted, that the resignation cannot be rescinded. That's the board policy.
Okay.
Now, could
At
you-
what point do?
I'm
but
sorry.
at what point do we accept it? Is it at this meeting or what?
No.
Because we don't vote on this.
No,
so-
this was only for your information. So
Yes,
we did
but-
not vote, it was accepted earlier.
Mr. Clark, as the Director of Human Resources, is authorized to accept resignations on behalf
Yeah,
of
right.
the Board of
I'm
Education.
aware of that.
Okay, but I just want to make sure that I understand it all.
My question would be, could she reapply for a position?
There's no reason why she could not reapply.
Okay.
for the position. Right.
Or do you want to, there might be some place else in our district that has a job available for you that might offer you maybe 5 hours, maybe 6 hours. I don't know that. You would have to put in an application, come back in and put an application in and apply for a job that maybe we have open somewhere. Talk to whoever you have to talk to, probably Mr. Clark. I don't know if you'd be willing to do that.
At this point, as you said that I would need to talk to Mr. Clark. I have constantly kept an eye on the board for postings of employment, and at this point, I have not seen any job postings to which I qualify to ascertain at this time.
So you wouldn't be willing to come in and reapply?
I would be willing to come in and reapply, but at best, yeah, I would reapply, but at this point,
What
yeah,
about,
I have no idea what the future.
Ms. Kim, do we have any bus aid positions available? Or would it be just subbing?
If they're gonna be a PCM, I work.
This is personnel.
That's personnel actions, best.
She's gonna-
All right.
Sorry.
I guess my question is, I know these are kind of personnel issues, and so we have to be real careful, but I just want to make sure we do what's fair and
Yeah,
what's,
because she has been employed.
so I'm not quite sure where to go with this.
Well, if I can respond to that, this is a personnel matter, and Mr. Clark conferred with me, actually, on the handling of this, and unfortunately, once a resignation is accepted, it is final, it is the practice and the policy of the Board of Education not to rescind a resignation. There are many, many reasons more than I care to go into, but anytime you have a policy, it's sometimes going to appear to be unfair in certain circumstances, and we regret that. But again, we encourage Ms. Russell Robinson to keep checking the postings, and there's always a possibility that she can reapply for something. I'm aware that there isn't anything today, but that tomorrow could be another day, and I'm afraid that's the best we can do right now.
Yeah, I know.
The next item on the agenda is items of interest from the superintendent.
Thank you. We have several things. We have an invitation from Hale Creek Elementary for the parade and the after-school enrichment programs. Also a newsletter from Barth. A thank you from the family of Ruth Ann Levi. Another thank you from the family of Don Bonham Madison. You have the Reading First Hawks highlights, Wick Elementary newsletter, Merriman School newsletter, Michigan Merit High School graduation requirements, and as we discussed earlier, your November calendar of events. So we hope that, that board members check their calendars and are able to participate in some of those building activities. And I also, can I just add a couple of things that are not on the agenda? One, I want to compliment the students and staff from Romulus High School and also board member Mr. Tom Kudrick for their participation in the annual Rotary fundraiser. As many of you know, the students of Romulus Community Schools in many cases are beneficiaries of various activities conducted by the Rotarians. In particular, last year, and I'm told they're going to do this again this year, they donated a very nice abridged Webster's Dictionary to every single third grader in the district. And they're going to do that again this fall. It's just an outstanding donation. And much of the financial, or much of the money from to pay for those dictionaries comes from that Rotary event. We had 2 teachers from the high school, Mrs. Mullins-Cullum and also Mrs. Carpenter, who supervised groups. There were 2 groups of students from various leadership organizations at the high school that were escorting patrons of the dinner in and seating them and kind of catering to their every wish and desire. And then we also had Mr. Usick's culinary arts program that actually prepared the meal under the direction of Mr. Hustix and also Mr. Kudrick, who was hopping around the kitchen pretty well as also. I also want to bring up to the board, I think I showed you, one of our board members, in fact, our board president, Mr. Mankiewicz, was honored in the most recent publication from the Michigan Association of School Boards as a participant in the mentorship program. This is a position that Mr. Mankiewicz volunteered for, where he will help to mentor new board members across the state of Michigan. So again, Romulus Community Schools is very well represented there. That's all I have.
Thank you. I had one item I want to bring up. I'm hoping most of the board members saw this in the Detroit News, that all of the 5th and 6th grade students have to take the writing portion of the
Over
MEP test
again.
over again. And that will be November 5th through the 13th. And the reason it has to be taken is a newspaper reporter wrote what the entire prompt for the test was in a newspaper article.
It was on
And-
TV and radio.
And that alerted other districts' students as to what it was about, so that they had to throw out that entire portion of the test. That's all I had. Any other board members? Ms. Lanasi?
Okay. To our public and those out there in TV land, the blood drive is going to be November 2nd. Mark your calendars. It's going to be at the high school. The health occupation class is sponsoring this. They'd like to do, the Red Cross, I think, are the ones that want to get, the goal is to collect 60 units. You have to be 17 years or older, weighing 110 pounds or more. It's going to be in the high school gym. And this is the phone number for you to call to make an appointment, 734-532-1112. Now, it is necessary to make an appointment. It runs from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. But, you know, if you can't make an appointment, you know, maybe something happened, your itinerary changed, and now you find you can go do the blood drive, I'm sure they'll accept walk-ins because, you know, we're in a mess. We need blood. So I'd like to see the school exceed the 60 units that the Red Cross would like to get. So everybody get out. It's on a Friday, and you know there's a lot of people take a half a day off of work, so 2 o'clock is in that half a day session there. So I think everybody can make it to the blood drive. Okay, I think I hit everything, the phone number. And did I mention that health occupation is, yeah, okay. That's it, Mr. President.
Any other board members?
I just
Ms.
have a
Freyer?
question for Mr. Clark. Are we running short on subs this year, substitute teachers to put in the classrooms?
We have ran short, and we're in the process now of going through the universities and Wayne County Intermediate School District, and we're starting to build that back up again.
Oh, and then I would also like to mention too, real quick, if I could, the Romulus middle school football team Bulldogs thus far are undefeated. They play their very last home game this week, Wednesday at 4 o'clock. It looks good for them, so hopefully they may have an undefeated season. I encourage all of you to come out and watch them if you get a chance. They're really cute at that age.
Uh-huh.
And they're doing really good.
Any other board members?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Kudrick?
Couple things. One, I really can't take a whole lot of credit for the Rotary thing. I was just in there just as an adult helping them out. The students did all the work for all the cooking, ice carving, pastry chefs and everything. Miss Richardson was one of Mr. Eustick's big assets into that, and they really did a phenomenal job. There's a lot of people with the food they had, the wait staff, the students were very professional, and we really need to be proud of our students. They were out there, there was no clowning around, and when you have that many students around, you always wonder, but they were very professional. And the government class with escorting people to their tables, and I don't think too many people were able to sit down a fork or a cup and get their hands off the cup before the young ladies were taking them off their... And one other thing, Mr. Clark, or Mr. Weiss, I mean, is there a way our personnel committee might look into this Ms. Russell issue and come up with a recommendation, maybe review it for some consideration?
Well, I think we can discuss it with the Personnel Committee. I'd be happy to set up a meeting.
I'd like to see that out of fairness, just to give the opportunity and let them come up with a decision for us on the board.
Any other board members? Seeing no one, we are at the stage of needing a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
I have a motion by Mrs. Lanasi, support by Mrs. Freyer to adjourn the meeting. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have a question for our superintendent.
Meeting is adjourned.
Are we having